Perfect. All right, here we go.
Me, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm really glad I have a chance to talk with you today for the Caregivers Workshop. And we'll just have a nice little chat about your experience, if that's okay.
Yes, I appreciate you guys having me. Thank you.
Awesome. So let's start. When did you become a caregiver for a brain injury survivor?
My dad's accident was May 19th of last year, so almost a year. Hands on with him physically as a caregiver would probably go more into June, but um, I would say more into May is when it officially started to happen, especially with paperwork and credentials and stuff like that.
Okay. Can you tell us what happened?
Yeah, it's actually kind of a workman's comp case. He is a utility slash phone person, and he did get injured on the job due to a fall. And um, most of his injuries have been, I mean, he had some broken ribs and some things, but the extent of his injury was and still is the brain injury. He originally had a brain bleed that turned into, we did get it stopped and everything. The blood did get off the brain. But of course, the injuries itself from the fall have really affected mostly his short term memory.
Okay. So how did you feel when you first got the news about your dad?
Um, Scared at first. I'll say fortunately, because like I said, everything kind of fell into place that day how it was supposed to. Um, I had got laid off from my job due to COVID and happened to be home. So I was able to pick up and I was ready to move when I did get the call. Again, like I said, when things happened how they're supposed to that day, is the accident happened just a few blocks away from my brother's house. So therefore, first responders did know um, whose family it was, and did get my brother, which led into the family being notified right away rather than um, knowing hours later or anything like that. And the lady who first helped my dad as well was a retired first responder. So I think everybody with doing what they did in a timely manner really did help with the bleed on his brain. Um, but in respect to that, we had to get to the hospital obviously right away. So I took my mom up. Dad was airlifted. Due to COVID, we didn't know what was going to happen. So I did call the hospital on the way up there and found out that only one person could go in. So as a family, we thought it was fitting for my mom, his wife, to be in there. So my brother and myself and my sister-in-law sat in the emergency room parking lot um, from about 2 in the afternoon till 10 or so that night, just waiting, having to get updates from my mom through the phone. Because, of course, if she walked out, she wasn't going to be able to get back in due to COVID. Um, we got updates about the bleed, um, how they were trying to stop it and get him sedated. And once they did, they were going to take him to intensive care unit, and that's when my mom had to tell him goodbye. And we didn't know when we would see him next, if we would. During that time, we were outside. We started making phone calls, to the family and everything, letting them know what happened. And once my mom did walk out of the hospital, of course, it's a memory I'll never forget with her coming up to us. We thought we were going to get told that, our dad was gone. Um, but my mom explained the brain bleed to us and how uh, we would have to start contacting the hospital just via telephone, which was a hard pill to swallow, knowing that we were leaving my dad there in the hospital and we were heading home just no hugs goodbye, no anything like that. And knowing that our correspondence from there forward of anything that we were going to find out just had to be over the phone.
So I'm sure there was a lot of emotion. There was a lot of thoughts running through you all's mind at that time. Um, how how was the rehabilitation process for you guys? You mentioned that it was a workman's comp situation. So what did that look like?
A lot of extra paperwork, a lot of extra time on our end. Um, excuse me, or my end. A lot of phone calls, um, appointments set up. You had to go through a lot of third party people. Got introduced to caseworkers, which from there on out, appointments they had to attend with us, um, and everything. A lot of unsaid, our family's so, um, we're open, but yet we're so private too. So to have a stranger come in and, when you go to the doctor, usually it's something private and talking about issues like that. And it was just a different feeling, I guess, but we had to get used to it.
Did you notice, or were there any challenges or struggles with the scheduling process for appointments, or just the rehabilitation process and all overall? Were there any struggles or challenges that you all or that you faced with working with workman's comp?
The hardest part was having a third party. I guess I couldn't just call the doctor myself and make our own appointments. Some of the appointments were just made for us, and you attend it, or you just sit there and you hope you can get to the call when they do call. um, I guess that's the most frustrating part, and then having to have just approvals and stuff, just crossing your t's and dotting your i's and making sure everything is processed the correct way. Again, like I said, thankfully I was off work, and so I did have the time to do that. My mom is a self-employed um, person, so she was able to focus her. Um, that was her scapegoat, kind of, is to get back to work and not focus on um, what was going on around us. And I was able to take that burden off of them too.
So you mentioned that this was just about a year ago. So this
Mhm.
experience you were saying was happening because of COVID. There were things here and there that were occurring that well, the rules were a little different. Um, how what were the difficulties that you saw as far as having to deal with this process with COVID, and how did your family kind of handle those issues?
It was really hard at first, especially going to the appointments, because one adult or an adult is supposed to go on their own, but again, just extra work before each appointment. I had to get it approved for one of us to go in with him due to his brain injury and not processing the information that was given to him. And his comfort level of somebody else being there with him um, did help him. I get, if the doctor said something he didn't understand, we could kind of put it in his terms a little bit, which helped. But then it was also hard, even though one of us could be in there, it was just one of us. So we had to decide who's going in. Um, and that ended up just being me most of the time, since I had been taking care of everything from day one. So it was just hard having my mom out in the parking lot, dropping us off and us going in and having her on speaker, or her being at work and just us, taking the time off there and listening to us. And now, she does take him to some of his appointments as well. And it's the same with me. I'll get the phone call. And it's just hard when you're not there face to face to see somebody and have it over the phone like that.
Right. So if you're okay with talking a little bit about how did your family how did you guys adjust mentally and emotionally as a family together?
Well, this weekend is actually going to be my parents' 40th anniversary. And I think my mom took it. It scared her quite a bit. It scared all of us, but she was about to lose her number one person that she's had all the time, and everybody copes differently. And for her, it was to stay busy. So she got to go to work. And I saw then how much the family actually depended on my dad, especially my mom, how much he took care of her and the household. And with myself being a single mother and single woman, I am in a totally different boat than my mom. And so I almost was able to teach her, because when the time came, bills started coming in. And dad always has taken care of the bills. And, you know, the, we have a safety deposit box, little things like that. I was able to take that off of her plate and kind of teach her that. And so it kind of made our bond a little bit stronger as well. Now with the therapy came things as well. Everything's not golden every day, and we definitely have our bad days, when dad has his bad days. And um, I will say one thing is they always take it out on the ones that they love the most. And I feel like as a caregiver, and as my mom being a caregiver with him, more now, we definitely, see the hard days more than anybody, and which has led into the family has as a whole. Um, I went to therapy sessions, which has really helped. And dad started off at first with having signs of PSTD, and which brought in the family as well. And it's really seemed to kind of help us on those bad days, what to do.
Awesome. So I know that you had mentioned to me before that you had received the therapy information from Brain Injury Alliance. So I'm just
Mhm.
curious, at what point did you decide to connect with the Brain Injury Alliance to get some support and services?
So we first received these little care packages, I guess I would say. They were the purple bags with a lot of information in them when we left his inpatient rehab, which started us off on, literature on what are we looking at? What should we expect? Excuse me. Um, what are, I guess, a starting point almost is what the literature did for us. And then when it turned time to look into therapists to not only help dad but the family as well, um, we were able to get resources from the Brain Alliance on who can specialize in brain injuries. And that's where I met our current therapist and everything. And that was last fall. And dad really clicked with him. He loves him. And um, we have a good connection with him. And um, it's almost going to be sad if or when the time actually comes, because it's just really helped a lot.
That's awesome. It sounds like you have been a really strong advocate for your dad as his caregiver, and a strong supporter for your family as well. You know, during an unexpected time, during an unexpected pandemic, um,
Hmm.
and having to work with workman's comp. You know, there's a lot of those, like you mentioned, special rules and processes that have to follow. So I have to know, like, what what's one piece of advice that you would give if you had the opportunity to?
Um, I kind of started thinking of things and came up with my own little quote, and have always I keep it in my little binder of everything, and it's always small things do count and small things are big steps. Um, at the beginning, of any accident, surgery, or anything, you always think you're going to have a huge step, a huge recovery and everything, but it's your body that needs to heal. And those little, and when you're setting in the time of it, time kind of stands still. But when you look back on it, you really do think, wow, I made it through that. I never thought that last June when we actually got my dad home, and he could hardly walk and didn't walk without help with a walker, a cane, and couldn't speak smoothly or anything. I never thought he'd be where he is today. Um, and with his first brain scan, he was expecting to go in there, and the doctors are like, "Yep, you're going to be good in 6 weeks. Just wait it out a little bit." But we all learned that the brain takes the longest to heal, and he was pretty disappointed with that. But I sat there and I just told him, "You cannot be disappointed with that. You have to be happy. A month and a half ago were laying in a hospital bed, couldn't talk, couldn't eat, nothing, and now look at you. You're walking, you're doing therapy, you're feeding yourself." So you just have to remember those small things are actually huge steps, because they just turn into a little bit more and more every day.
Awesome. What's I'm hearing a lot about, you're helping your dad and the relationship that I'm sure has grown because of how much you've worked, you've helped him through this process. If there's one thing that you've learned about your relationship with you and your dad, what would it be?
We're both very stubborn, but we both have the biggest heart, and we know when lines have been stepped. With a brain injury, I've definitely had to learn that he doesn't mean to yell. Um, he doesn't mean to, once he realizes what he does, he immediately apologizes. It's not that person that it used to be. And that's what has taken a lot of time to get used to. Um, you know, that morning that my dad went to work, he's not that same person. And like the therapist has told us, we'll never get him back. We thankfully still have him, but we're never going to get him back. And dad has realized that. We've all had to accept that, um, as well as a big part of our life.
Okay. So, what about your family and your family dynamic? Is there one thing that has stood out for you about your family during this time?
Just to, how open we've been, adaptable to the whole situation. Um, we all have some younger kids and everything, and with dad's brain injury, loud noises, lights, and everything can really upset him. The kids have done great, and just things like that as a family as a whole, like at family gatherings. We just had one recently. Unfortunately, dad wasn't having a good day and he had to go lay down, and we just have to accept those things. But later on that day or the next day, we'll have dinner again. um, it's just we have to. I don't like using this is our new norm, but it really is, because like I said, that guy that went to work that morning, um, you can tell he's down there somewhere with my dad still. He's the same person, has the same heart and everything. It's just his process of thinking and everything has changed, and we need to work around that to support him.
Awesome. So, how is dad doing now?
He's doing good. Um, he has graduated, kind of is what I look at it as, from physical therapy. So he does not have to go weekly anymore. He's maxed out everything that they can provide for him. That's not saying he still doesn't, get tired or have his stumbles and falls. But as far as the physical therapy team that we were seeing, he's maxed out with them. So he does not have to go see them anymore. He still does see occupational and speech, which continually helps him grow, keeps his mind busy and everything. Um, and with that, he wasn't able to drive. That's another thing that took a lot of time. If dad wanted to go somewhere, which we didn't want him just sitting in the house, um, we would find rides for him, or I would leave, for a lunch hour, because I did start going back to work last fall, um, or taking him to therapy, for appointments. So is what he can do now is he can actually drive himself to his uh, therapy appointments during the day, and he has been doing some night driving at all, which has really boosted his self-confidence as well. Getting some of that independence back and understanding all of that as well.
That is so fantastic. I'm just so happy to hear that he's making that progress and he's graduating.
Mhm.
That's fantastic. Um,
Yeah, it is.
so I got one more question for you. After
Mhm.
all of the changes, all the rehabilitation, everything that you've kind of gone through, your dad has gone through, how do you see your dad now?
Um, this is my dad still. He's still my dad. Um, he's just changed a little bit. So, like I said, it's being that adapting type figure of coming in and knowing how to adapt him to still be my dad. He's still here with us. I still know his intentions. I know who he is, but he's still my dad. So that's how I see him. And we just need to change a little bit to keep moving forward with him.
Awesome. Jamie, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it. And I hope that if anybody has any questions, I can answer them and help anybody out. And want to thank the Brain Alliance as well for helping the family out.
Awesome. Yes, we will see if there are some questions here in a moment. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Jamie, thank you so much for sharing your beautiful story with us. Really, it's a blessing to hear that your raw, transparent emotions and just your journey as a caregiver. We so appreciate it. It just brings all of this stuff to life. So thank you so much for your time and just being present and sharing that. And Lanae for being part of that interview as well. Um, I didn't see any questions come up in the chat box. Give everybody a second to see if there's anything that they have. If anything does come up, Jamie, if we get anybody reaching out to us and they want to make a comment or ask you a question, we'll certainly pass that along to you. Also, Lisa has, my colleague has a link for an evaluation for you that she just dropped into our chat box. If for whatever reason it's not convenient now for any of you to complete that along with the 3 others, I will be sending out an email to everybody with those 4 links. If you could take the time, just a few minutes on each one, just to provide feedback to these wonderful presenters who've shared their time and talent and experience with us today, that would be wonderful. I would just like to thank you all for joining us today. As a reminder, all of these recordings or these presentations will be posted on our Brain Injury of Iowa YouTube page in the coming days. And then in the email that I'm going to send everybody with those evaluation links, we will also send a certificate of attendance if you need that for your file. I think that's everything. Jamie, thanks again so very much. And oh, actually, you know what? Lanae just asked a question. Jamie, how is your daughter doing with this new kind of version of grandpa post brain injury? How is she adapting? Let's see if I can. Let's see, I think you're unmuted. Jamie, are you still there? I don't see that. Looks like she has the ability to answer. We might just have to ask her on the side how that relationship has grown. But again, everybody, thank you so much for your time. Look out for that email and enjoy the rest of your day. Oh, Jamie, are you going to hop on real quick? Oh, you think you're on? Let me see here. I don't hear you. Lisa, can you shoot me a text just to see if you can hear, so I know if it's on my end or if it's everybody? still here. Perfect. Let's see. Can't hear. Okay, good. Yeah, Lisa can't hear either, so it's not just me. Jamie, do you have, let's see, on my end, it shows that you're not muted. Do you have your volume turned up and everything? Maybe earphones, you have headphones plugged in, maybe? No? Well, shoot. Yeah, I have you as a co-host and you're unmuted, so I'm not sure what is going on. I'm looking at my screen to see if there's anything else I can do on my end. Darn, yeah. I'm gonna do mute and then I'm gonna unmute and see if that does anything. Ask to unmute. No, I can see you asking if we can hear you now, but no. Well, darn it. If you want, Jamie, if there's comments or additions you want to make to your story, you can certainly log back out and log back on. And we will absolutely wait for you if that's something that you want to try. That's the only thing that I can think of. Yeah, you want to go ahead and do that? Okay, we'll wait for you. I'm just going to mute myself till you come back. Hang tight, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for understanding and for waiting around to make sure she gets back on. I want to give her the opportunity to answer questions or make comments if she's able to rejoin us here. We'll give her, oh, look, okay, good. She's in the waiting room. I just have to let her in. Perfect. Hopefully this works this time. Okay, let's see if this works. Jamie, I made you a co-host. You should be able to talk. Oh, you're connecting to audio. Good. That's a good sign. Okay. You see that it's trying to connect. May just be something going on her end here. I'll give her another minute. Again, thank you, everybody. In the virtual world, sometimes this stuff happens. I'm going to shoot her a message real quick. Well, I saw that she was trying a couple times to connect to audio. It doesn't look like that worked for her, unfortunately. So we'll go ahead and we'll end this session. And then if there's anybody that on their evaluation of Jamie's presentation that they want to pass something along to her, we'll absolutely make sure that that happens. Thank you again for sticking around, for your patience, just as we tried to work through that technical issue, and for attending this afternoon. We so appreciate your time. Look for that email either later today or tomorrow, and enjoy the rest of your day, everybody. Thank you.